it's Marie, and it's the end of winter, which means two things. First, spring is coming. Second, it's time for a book haul. Today I'm going to be taking you through all the books that I acquired between the start of June and now the end of August. And there are a lot of them. So let's just crack on and get into it because I've got 24 books to get through. So let's just get to it. I'm going to try to be brief. So I bought one audiobook this season. It was with an Audible credit, and it's called Happy Head by Josh Silver. It's a YA, almost like contemporary Hunger Games sort of psychological thriller type situation, about a boy named, I think his name is Sebastian, um, and he ends up at like this retreat, mental health, physical health training sort of place called Happy Head. Um, and I think he's one of 100 kids. I think they're like 17-ish. And I didn't get too far into it, but I think there are a series of challenges that he and his group of four have to progress through. But I think there's some kind of sinister, dark underbelly to this organization that is going to be revealed as the book progresses. This is a LGBTQ plus story. Seb is, I think, gay, maybe? I can't remember, but he's definitely interested in boys. And he meets another boy at this retreat called Finn, who I think is going to be the love interest. He's a bit darker and troubled, so we'll see how that goes. The one ebook I acquired this season was The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I actually tried to read this once before in, I think, 2018, and I got maybe 70 pages in and I DNF'd it. But it was one of those DNFs where I wasn't sure if it was the book or if it was just me at the time. Like maybe it wasn't the kind of book I was looking for. So I DNF'd it and thought maybe one day I'll come back to it, but maybe not. I decided to try it again, mostly because I know this book and this series is very popular. It's all over the internet, and I know it has a lot of tropes in it that I really like in other books. And I just really want to like this series. So I'm gonna try it again. I got it as an ebook on sale. It was like $7, so it wasn't a huge loss if I end up DNFing it again. But I hope I don't. From what I remember, this is a fae human romantic fantasy between, I think, a young woman named Jude, maybe, and the cruel prince, the fae prince, whose name I think is Carden. It's an enemies to lovers type story, and I'm really, really hoping. I want to at least try to push through book one, because maybe even if I don't enjoy that as much, maybe it'll get better in book two, but we'll see. I just really want to like this series, so I'm gonna really try. I'm really gonna try this time. Moving on to all the physical books that I acquired this season. They're all stacked up in front of me and they're very intimidating. Let's start briefly with the books I got in my unplugged book boxes this season, because we've sort of seen those before, or you will have if you watch my unboxing videos, which I hope you do. I got 4 unplugged boxes this season because I got my 3 regular adult boxes, and then I bought the June young adult box as well as a one-off. So the book I got in May, but which arrived in June, was Daughters of Smoke and Fire by Ava Homer. This is a literary fiction about a woman who's from Iran and I think currently living in the US, and her younger brother, who I believe is still in Iran, gets involved with activist organizations and I think goes missing. And then I think she has to try and find him, or something like that. I believe it's inspired by experiences that the author herself has had, and I don't have much more to say about this one. I'm not going to read it, to be honest. I'm sure it's a great story if you're into this kind of thing, but I'm just not. I'm not a literary fiction fan. So I'm just going to put it in my unhaul box and donate it at the end of the year, and it'll go to someone who's going to be really lucky to have this really nice special edition. In my June adult box, I got The Fitful Sleep of Immigrants by Orlando Ortega Medina. This is sort of almost related to the book I just mentioned, in that it seems a bit more literary, but this one is about a same-sex couple living in the US, and one of the men in this couple, for some reason, gets threatened with deportation. And I think this is also inspired by events of the author's own life. So I am going to try this one. Again, if it's more in the literary vein, I might not enjoy it as much, but it does have themes that I am interested in generally. So we'll see. See how I go with this one. If nothing else, it's a very pretty colour. The June young adult box got me Fraternity by Andy Mientis. This is a YA LGBTQ plus story about a boys' boarding school in, I believe, the early 90s, set in the UK. And it's about a boy who transfers to this school and gets involved with this club that's sort of like a secret organization within the school. And historically, this club has always been sort of a home for queer boys who end up at this school. But then somehow they get involved with a teacher who's involved with the occult or something. I can't quite remember. I read the blurb quite a while ago and I've been distracted by other things. But I do know that when I read this one, or read this blurb, I was very intrigued by this story, although I'm not typically a YA reader anymore. I'm definitely keen to give this one a go. So hopefully it's a good one, because it sounds like it could be quite dark and sinister and exciting, so hopefully it is. And then finally, in the July adult box, I got The Burrow, a Bookshop Holiday by Kylie Dunbar. I'm quite keen to read this one. I'm very excited. First of all, it's so cute. Look at those sprayed edges. So adorable. But this is a contemporary romance about a woman who had planned to go on like a 2-week loan of a bookshop. Like, you get to rent a bookshop for 2 weeks and run this bookshop as part of a holiday, and then you go back to your normal life. So she had planned to do this with her boyfriend, and then she discovers that he's been cheating on her, so she decides to go alone. And then I think she meets a man who maybe is also renting the bookshop for the same 2 weeks, or he works nearby or something. But he's obviously the love interest, and he's dark and brooding, because aren't they all? And this one, it just sounds like it could be quite fun and quite light. I might read this one after my current sort of reading endeavour has come to an end. I'll get to that soon, because I think this might be a good palate cleanser after I've finished with all the other stuff. So we'll see. I do want to read this once though. I'm quite keen to get to this one sooner rather than later. For a change of pace, I got the 3 first issues of Fence Volume 6. For some reason they've released Volume 6 first as individual comics. I don't know why, but that's what they've decided to do. There's one more issue in this set to come in September, so I haven't got that one yet. It'll be in the spring haul at the end of November. So yeah, this is going to be Volume 6, Fence Redemption. The bind-up graphic novel version is coming out in January. So this is just the latest installment in this saga of boys at a boarding school who are on a fencing team and trying to be the best. This issue has been quite fun. There's been a lot of relationship and character progression between the characters. That's been really cool to see. This issue sort of takes place at a like a fencing training camp between the King's Row team and some of the other boys' fencing teams in the area. So it's been really cool to see some of the characters that we've heard about in past issues on the page and see how those dynamics are playing out and how it's affecting the characters from King's Row. I bought the art and making of Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. This is just a fun book that I bought for myself because I thought it was cool. This is basically a behind the scenes look at the making of the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie, which was released in March, I think, of this year. Feels like so long ago. But I loved that movie. I love D&D. I play D&D. And this movie was just so much fun. It was just, yeah, it warmed my heart. And I really wanted to see a bit more about how they made it. So I have found a lot of the content in this book is the same as sort of like behind the scenes interviews and content that you can find online or that comes with copies of the movie. Like if you buy the digital version, you'll get behind the scenes content, and a lot of that content is what appears in this book. But the good thing about the book is that it has like concept art for different characters and some of the monsters and things, like stuff like this, which is really cool. I like seeing how, you know, characters progress from idea through to concept art through to what they end up looking like on the screen. I also bought a series that I already own. I bought new editions of the first trilogy in the Kushiels Legacy series by Jacqueline Carey. So that's Kushiels Start, Kushiels Chosen, and Kushiels Avatar. I first read this series like almost 20 years ago, something like that. And I've owned the books, I don't know, 10 or so-ish years, maybe a little bit longer. The problem with that is that the first trilogy, I've just never loved those covers. I've always thought they were so ugly. But the books have been re-released with these amazing new covers to coincide with a release of a new book in the series, which hasn't arrived yet. I was hoping it would be with me by now, but it hasn't arrived. It is on its way though, so you'll see it in the spring haul. And I just decided to buy these books because the covers are just gorgeous. I love them. They're so decadent and just vibrant, and they feel like they sum up the series a lot more effectively than the old covers did. So yeah, I'm glad to be replacing my old copies with this new set that are going to look so much nicer on my shelf. I guess just to summarize, if you're not familiar with the series, this is sort of what I think of as like the original romantic fantasy. Like if you thought Sarah J Maas invented the romantic fantasy genre, you've clearly never heard of Jacqueline Carey, because she was doing it years and years before Sarah J Maas ever landed on the scene. This is a series about Phaedra, who is like a courtesan spy. It's in a sort of fantasy version of Europe. It's about, yeah, this courtesan spy who gets caught up in a plot to depose the current ruling family, and so she has to go on this adventure to help prevent that and gets caught up in all sorts of political intrigue along the way. It is a very political series, which I know isn't for a lot of people. It also uses very flowery language, very flowery prose, but this is one of those series where the characterization and the world building and the voice and the writing style all match seamlessly. Like, you could not write this series with a more casual voice because it just wouldn't fit everything else. So it's a really good example of how all the elements of writing and storytelling come together to form one bigger picture. So if that's something you're interested in from a writing perspective, I would encourage you to maybe have a look at this series. I have got Wolf Song by TJ Klune. And I know what you're thinking, Marie, don't you already own this book? Yes, I own it twice already. I have an ebook which I read first last year, and then when the book was re-released with a new cover later last year, I bought that too. But this version I bought specifically because it's the Barnes & Noble special edition. And it's special because in all of these new Barnes & Noble exclusive editions, at the end of each book of the 4 books, there's a new part of a new short story. And I just need more Green Creek in my life. So I bought this version so I could read the first part of this new short story. I've also got Raven Song by TJ Klune. This is the sequel to Wolf Song. It does follow a different main character, although it's a 4-book series, so they all connect with a larger plot. Although I do think you can read Wolf Song pretty well on its own. It sort of wraps up reasonably well. So if you just read this, I think you'll be satisfied with the internal story. But by continuing, I think you sort of get pulled into the larger ongoing plot. But obviously I've already read all 4 books, and at this point I'm just collecting the physical copies as they're released. So this one came out earlier this month, I think. I haven't reread it yet because I've had other things happening, but I do hope to reread it maybe later this year, around Christmas time maybe. I'll probably read both of them actually, because it's never a bad idea to reread Wolf Song as far as I'm concerned. I've talked about this series so many times. It's basically about the Bennett family, who, look, they're werewolves, okay? They're mysterious, but they're werewolves. It's got wolf in the title. You should know. So the Bennett family comes back to this town of Green Creek in Oregon, and they sort of get caught up with the humans who live there, and they bring trouble with them. I also have Dragonfall by L.R. Lamb. I don't know much about this one, to be honest. I saw it, I don't even remember where I saw it or when I saw it, but I definitely saw it, and it ended up on a wish list of mine, and I just sort of bought it when I was buying some other things. Obviously it's fantasy, it's about dragons. I think it's about a society in which dragons were a race that have now become mostly extinct or died out or something, or disappeared in some way. And there's one dragon remaining who I think turns himself into a human, and meets up with a young woman who's like a thief, and together they probably have to, I don't know, restore the dragons or something? I don't remember. I know it sounded good when I read the blurb. I have since read that a friend of mine did read this, or tried to, and didn't enjoy it. I think she mentioned a lot of plot holes, which is disappointing, but I'd already bought the book by the time I read that, so it was too late. Either way, the cover's nice. And I hope I like it anyway. It could be fun. I also bought the Aluma Crate special edition set of some of Rachel Lynn Solomon's books, including The X Talk, Weather Girl, and Business or Pleasure. These are quite cute new versions. Well, I say new versions. New, like, special editions. They've got sprayed edges with little cute designs, and I think the naked hardcovers have, yeah, like foiling and embossing on them, which is quite cool. I've been eyeing this set for a while. I've read a few of Rachel Lynn Solomon's books, and I've enjoyed them. In fact, I've already read The X Talk. I got it as an ebook last year, I think. But her other books have been on my TBR or my want to read list for a while, and I've just never got around to them. And I've been eyeing this Aluma Crate set for ages. I think they were released the start of the year, and I thought about buying them and I didn't. Then I thought about buying them again later and I didn't. But they recently had a sale, so I grabbed them in that for a discounted price. And finally, I bought The Ruin of Kings by Jen Lyons. This is the first book in the Chorus of Dragons series. It's a 5-book series about well, he starts off as a teenager named Kieran, and he witnesses some people torture and murder someone and then summon a demon. And this sort of gets him into some trouble because these people are trying to track him down. And over the course of this, Kieran discovers that he's actually a long-lost son of royal family. But not only that, he is a reincarnation of someone who lived hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And not only is he a reincarnation of a person who lived hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years ago, but a lot of the people he meet and encounter are also reincarnations of other important people from hundreds of years ago. And it's sort of a it's a hard series to describe, because there's a lot of soul swapping and people who are immortal or very long lived, or people who have died and resurrected, or people like Kieran who in past lives have been important figures and have now been reincarnated as new people. But history is very important. Who you were before affects your life now, at least for these particular people. And there's this sort of war going on between demons and humans, and people trying to change the world, basically, for good or bad. It's a complex series, but I do love it. In fact, halfway through book 1, I ordered the rest of the series. And that includes The Name of All Things, book 2. Book 3 is The Memory of Souls. Book 4 is The House of Always. And book 5 is The Discord of Gods. They're all so chunky. They're all so chunky. I can't even hold them all at the same time. They are gorgeous covers, by the way. I love the jewel tones. But yeah, it's been... This has been my reading for the past 7 or so weeks. So it's been quite an intense reading experience for me over the last few weeks, but very exciting, and well worth the effort. I don't normally read this sort of long epic fantasy so quickly, because I burn out with these sorts of books, and I sort of get bored and want to read other things. But I've really made an effort to read these books back to back because there's a lot to remember, and it's important to know who used to be who and how all of these people are interconnected and related. And I didn't want to forget anything. Um, and you know, now I'm almost finished book 4. Like, I might as well just finish the series and call it a day. I think this would be a good series to reread later, after I've had some time to decompress, because I think there'll be a lot in it that I'll see after having read it once. Like, things that didn't make sense or didn't mean anything the first time, on a reread will have more significance, I feel. At least that's my hope. Yeah, so if you're looking for a good fantasy series to get stuck into, check out The Chorus of Dragons by Jen Lyons, because it's well worth the effort, I promise. And that is my winter book haul. This was such a slog. I had so many books this season. They're just scattered around everywhere now. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if you enjoyed them, or if there's any books here that you're interested in picking up at the future. But for now, I hope you're having a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Bye.